Hey everybody, it's Dr. Nicole. It is the evening here on the East Coast, and I'm getting ready to head home from the clinic, but wanted to share some things with you before I head out. Um, if you're joining, feel free to comment. Let me know that you're here. I'm not great at following the comment thread and looking at who's coming in and out, but feel free to say hello. For those of you who don't know me, I am Dr. Nicole Berkins, clinical psychologist, nutrition specialist, and former teacher, working primarily with children and young adults with developmental disabilities and mental health challenges. And last week on Friday afternoon, I did a Facebook Live about what I call the nonsense of online schooling and what's happening with school right now for our kids with special needs. And I knew that it was an important topic to people. I've been hearing about it at the clinic for several weeks, but I had no idea how much interest that would get. 25,000 of you watched that video, thousands of comments, all kinds of emails coming in. So I've been trying to keep up with all of that and support everybody. And I thought I would hop on here and talk a little more about that topic and really about some of the questions and concerns that came up around the topic of schooling for kids right now, especially if you have young children who are being expected to do online learning, as well as those of you with kids with special needs, particularly kids with more significant special needs who are really finding that the current school situation is not working with your kids. Oh, Julie, thank you so much for that comment. That I'm so glad that that video had a positive impact on you. Hi, Donna. Thanks for stopping in. So what I want to talk about with you right now is probably the number one parent concern or question or issue that was raised around schooling, online schooling. My suggestion in the video from last week about if the current schooling situation is not working for your child and you know it's not working, to just put it aside, to opt out of it, to work with your child at home, to not feel obligated to do something school-wise that isn't working for your child. And the top concern that came up around that was parents saying, but I'm afraid that I won't know how to do that. I'm afraid I don't know what to do. I'm afraid I'm going to fail my child. What if I pull them from this online learning program and then they don't learn and they don't progress and they're worse off? And I really heard so much fear and anxiety and just distress in parents around that. And so I want to speak to that because I hope to be able to share some things from my experience that will hopefully put you at ease with that and give you some things to think about maybe with that in a different way. So let me preface this by saying that I've had a concern for a long time now that in the field of education, in the field of mental health, in the field of medicine, and all of these professional fields that interact with families of kids with special needs, that we are really disempowering parents. And when I say disempowering parents, what I mean is really sending the message to parents that you don't really know what your child needs. You don't really know how to effectively do things with your child. What's most important for you as a parent is to find the schools, the teachers, the aides, the therapists, the therapy aides, the programs that can do something effective for your child. And I'm not suggesting that there aren't wonderful schools, therapy programs, all of those things out there that can be wonderful for kids. But my concern has been for a long time now that parents are receiving the message from professionals across the fields of education, mental health, medicine, basically most of the professionals that they interact with, that you need to just give your kids to us and we'll take care of what needs to happen for them. And nothing could be further from the truth. As parents, you are optimally suited to meet the needs of your children, to meet their learning needs, to meet their emotional and relational needs, to provide opportunities for learning and growth for them. And I think we have done a real disservice, and I say we, me speaking for all of these professions that I am or have been a part of in my career, that we've done a real disservice to you of sending this message that you really aren't able to do this. You need to find people who can. And I think that there's a danger in that. And I think what we're seeing now is that really coming to a head in this pandemic situation where parents aren't able to access the schools, the classes, the teachers, the programs, the therapists, the behavior aids, the whatevers that you've been told to go out there and find and get for your child. You're not able to access them. And now you're saying to yourself, I don't know what to do. Can I do this? And so I want to help ground you right now in what I know to be true in well over 20 years of practice now, that you can provide opportunities for growth and learning and meaningful skill development for your child. You are optimally suited to that. Even if you don't believe that you have the ability to do it, you absolutely do. And how do I know that? Because you've been teaching and guiding and supporting the development of your kids from the moment they were born. Now, as parents, we all have concerns from one moment or one day to the next about how well or not well we do that, right? As a parent, I've certainly questioned my own abilities with my kids on many occasions. So that's a normal thing. But I think to step back and realize, oh, I do have the ability to guide my child, to provide learning opportunities, to meaningfully engage them, to help them grow. That's really key, especially right now when you're being called upon to do that more than ever. And if you're realizing that the school situation or the therapy situation or the intensive therapeutic program or whatever that you're being given online or otherwise at this point is not suitable for your child, is stressing them out, is overwhelming them, is stressing you out, is just not supporting learning and growth for them, then it is time to step back and say, okay, I can do this. I'm going to do this with my child. And teachers, therapists, support staff, all these people, they can be wonderful resources, wonderful sources of information, great support, all of that. But they should never eclipse the importance and the ability of parents to drive development, learning, and growth in skills for kids. And if you're questioning that, if you're saying, well, I hear that, but I'm not sure, let's just talk factually for a moment about the reality of the level of training that most people who are, put in positions to work with kids with special needs, what kind of training they've actually received and are given. And when we look at that, the reality is that many, if not most, of the adults, whether they're in school or therapeutic program kinds of situations, do not have extensive training. Now, there are exceptions. There obviously are some teachers and some therapists who have received not only extensive formal training and have degrees in this, but also have worked with many kids over the course of their career, have a lot of experience, and have a lot of skill with that. That is absolutely true. But if you're a parent of a child with special needs who's been in school or therapeutic settings for any amount of time, you know that that is not the norm. It just isn't. The majority of people, particularly in school environments, who are working with children with special needs, particularly more significant special needs, don't have a lot of training, especially when we look at paraprofessionals, behavior aides, other kinds of support staff. Let's just be really clear, and I'm not saying anything negative about these people. Many of them are wonderful people, and they mean well, and they do good work and support kids well. But the reality is they don't have extensive training. The one-on-one aid that your child is assigned in their IEP or through their school program likely has very minimal training. I have worked in school districts all over, and I'm telling you, and many of you, I know agree with this because you've been living this now for a while, these people are thrown into these positions of being aides, of being paraprofessionals, of being support staff without training. And some of them get a little bit of training, as they go along. Most of it is on the job training. Well, hey, as parents, you can appreciate that, right? You've been doing on the job training with your child since the day they were born. So I just want to be clear that for those of you who are saying, well, a great example, I had a parent just the other day who said that a significant portion of their child's online school day was supposed to be sitting and working with their one-on-one aide, via computer. And the parent was talking about how stressed the child was and it wasn't working and mom was stressed and all of that. And I said, well, why don't you just do some of those things, throughout the day with your child? She said, well, I can't. I mean, he's supposed to be in school. This person is there doing this. And I said, does this person have any more ability to do anything with your child through the computer with this instruction, filling out worksheets, doing these school tasks than you have? And she thought about it and she said, no, I guess not. And that's absolutely correct. Again, this is nothing against people in these roles, but let's get real about the reality, the fact that these are not people with all kinds of extensive customized training. And let's take even most teachers. They are learning on the job from year to year with the students that they have. Yes, most teachers, special education teachers, obviously have some specialized training in working with kids with special needs, although not necessarily kids with more severe special needs, and certainly not your particular child with special needs, right? But they have some experience and training in that. Most general education teachers don't have experience or training in that, and they're learning through working with your child day by day, week by week, month by month. So my point here is that all of these people who are engaging with your child in the school setting, the vast majority of them are learning as they go and do things with your child. They don't have some sort of predetermined, specialized knowledge base that makes them an expert at doing something with your child educationally. And so I spotlight that for you, for those of you who are really questioning, can I as a parent possibly do anything meaningful from an educational standpoint with my child? Absolutely you can. Absolutely you can, because many and most of the people working with your child in the school environment do not have any kind of specialized training or expertise that you don't have. So it's important to remember that. Now, I've also gotten some questions and concerns from parents, not so much about the classroom setting or the school setting, but about their child's intensive behavioral programs, specifically ABA programs. And, parents saying, well, my child is supposed to be on the computer doing this program with their, behavior technician, and, it's just really stressful. It's not working, but I need to do it because they need the therapy. If I pull my child from this therapy, it's going to be a terrible thing. People are thinking that too, even if it's speech therapy or occupational therapy or whatever it is over the computer. There's this fear that, oh my goodness, if I stop doing this, even if it's not working well, I know it's not working well, but I'm afraid that if I pull my kid from it, that something terrible is going to happen, that it's going to set them back, that they're not going to progress. Look, if something's not working, it's not working, right? But let's look at this issue of training when it comes to these behavior techs and these ABA people who are working with your kids. Understand very clearly that these people have minimal training. High school diplomas, maybe a college diploma in some cases. They've watched some videos, they've observed some sessions, and they're sent in to do this magical thing that you've been told is going to miraculously change your kid, and you better have them there, in the session with the person or in front of the computer, or they're not going to grow and progress. It's simply not true. There's not research to back that up. And when you look at the stress that you and your child are under trying to make this work, especially via the computer, and your fear about what will happen to my child if I pull them from this, thinking that there's some kind of specialized knowledge or magical something that these people are doing with your child that you can't possibly do, it's not true. It's just not true. You have every bit as much capability as these behavior therapists do. Every bit, and more so. And it's a whole nother conversation about whether we should be doing those kinds of approaches and therapies with kids anyway, because of the stress and the overwhelm and all the problems with that. And we'll do a video on that another time. But the point of this is you are not somehow lacking in skills, understandings, or abilities that these other people have when it comes to working with your child. You absolutely have at least as much, and I would argue a lot more skill and capability, because it's your child. You know your child better than anyone. Now, again, access these people as resources. You know, if it's not working to have your child doing the online program with the teacher or the aide or whatever, say to them, hey, it's going to work better for me to work with my child in the home environment, but I'd like to get on the computer with you, and I'd like to have a discussion about what you find works or how you would approach this, or give me your insights about, you know, how you would break this down and work on it. That's a wonderful way to use these people as resources right now, so that you can gain additional information, insights, and strategies, and then you can utilize those with your child in the course of normal day-to-day life, or in sitting down with them and working on skills. So use these professionals and these support people as a resource for you, but recognize that you are capable of supporting your child with their learning and their growth and their development. Now, some of you may be feeling like, yeah, I hear all that, but the great thing about being able to send my child to school or to their therapy program or whatever is that I get to have a break. My child and I get a break from each other. And boy, I totally hear that. And that is legitimate. And that is, you know, you have every right to feel just frustrated and even be grieving that a bit. I think that's one of the big things that parents across the board are grieving right now, is just any sense of some time and space to ourselves to do other things not related to our children. The interesting thing about that is, if you're parenting a child with more significant special needs, that's something that you deal with all the time on a level that other parents don't, and so you sort of inherently know how to deal with that probably better than other parents do. But of course, there's the frustration of that. And breaks are important, and being able to have time and space away from each other and not feel like you're constantly having to be with your child. So here's what I want to say to you about that, because right now, many of you are in a situation where you aren't getting those breaks. You are needing to have your child in front of the computer or doing things with them at home or whatever for school. Here's the great thing: if you do operate on your own time schedule, if you collaborate with the school to work out a schedule where you can pick and choose what to do based on what's working for your child and for you, that's great. If you decide to just say no thank you to the virtual school and therapy thing altogether, then you opt out of it and you get to make your own schedule and decide how you live your day and how you work with your child, and that's great too. But the important thing to remember is educating your child at home, doing homeschooling, working with them on things at home should not involve constantly keeping them engaged and busy doing things. That's actually overwhelming and not helpful for them or for you. And parents who have homeschooled for a long time know this, that one of the beautiful things about homeschooling or doing, working on therapies and doing things with your child at home is that you get to take the breaks you need. You get to structure your day in a way that's going to work for you and support the processing of your child, not be overwhelming for them. So if you're thinking, if I pull my kid from school or from their therapy program, I'm going to be stuck having to do something with them for 7 hours a day, for school. No, you don't need to do that. And I want to reassure you about that. You're going to work things into normal activities of the day. You're going to do things for a little bit, and then you're going to take breaks. You're going to let your kid go decompress. You're going to go do what you need to do. And there's a flow that you'll get into with it. But I really want you to get out of this idea that so many parents are locked into, that school or teaching or learning or education means this solid block of 6 or 7 hours that we are doing something academic or skill focused. That's one way. That's the way that our education, our formal education system in the US happens to work, but that is certainly not the only way that education and school and learning happens. And the beautiful thing is you get to decide and having your child at home, how you want to structure that and how you want to do that. So try not to get stuck in that box of this is what school needs to look like. I think it would be helpful maybe to share also that in my over 20 years of working with families, I have had a lot of families who have pulled their children out of the school system or the intensive therapy program or whatever that they were involved in for a variety of reasons. Most of the time, it's two primary factors. The first is that the child is completely overwhelmed, stressed out, behaviors are escalating. It's just the child's not learning. They're just really frustrated, overwhelmed, and it's creating a lot of tension and a lot of stress. That's one of the big reasons. The other reason is that parents just feel like their child is not gaining meaningful skills or working on things that they feel are important for them. So I'd say over the years, those are the two biggest reasons that parents have pulled their kids from those kinds of settings. And this was pre-pandemic. So, this is just in general, families that I work with who have done this over time. And what I can tell you without a doubt is that not a single one of those children has been worse off in the short run or the long run of their lives for their parents making the decision to homeschool them, to pull them from their school program, or to stop whatever intensive therapy program they were in. Not a single one. In fact, every single child that has been the situation for has done better in the short term and just as well, if not better, in the long term. It's important to remember, and this is kind of a whole nother conversation, but I do want to spotlight it here, that for all of the focus that we as professionals put on the importance of kids, attending these school programs and going to school until they're 21 or 26, depending on their needs, and, getting all of this intensive early therapy, we don't have good outcomes data on that. It's important for you to know if you're thinking, gosh, I really want to opt out of this school situation that's not working for my child right now, but I'm fearful of what that will mean long term. Let me just be clear with you that there is not research to support the idea that kids being in these school programs or being in these intensive therapy programs lead to markedly different outcomes in the long term of kids' lives as they grow into adulthood. Now, again, I'm not saying that these programs and these schools don't work on important things or teach kids important things, but it is critical for you to understand that there isn't something magical that's happening there that leads to markedly different outcomes. And in fact, what I have seen in my own practice now over 20 plus years is that families who pull their children and are able to individualize and tailor things to what's appropriate for their child and focus on what they value and what's most important for that child's development, those kids actually go on to do much better in adulthood. So those are just my observations and my experiences, but I think it's worth saying, and I know some of you are agreeing here now, and some of you who have emailed, and we've had some conversations online as well. This is how you're thinking about it too, and I just want to support you with that. So you're not going to damage your child or hold them back. In fact, I would say that if the options are sticking with an online program or some kind of school or therapy program right now that clearly isn't working or helping your child, or pulling them out, you're much better off pulling them out and doing something on your own. And they're not going to be worse for it, because here's the thing: when you focus on what your child needs and what they can manage, and you focus on putting relationship first, which is really what you're doing there. So I'm going to focus on being in relationship with my child, on what we're doing day to day, on us having positive interaction and relationship instead of all the negative interaction and the problems that are happening with the online school and all of that. I'm going to focus on positive relationship building and support. You can never go wrong with that. Supporting and focusing on building positive relationships with kids, particularly if your child has more significant special needs, that is probably the most important thing that you can be doing with your child. So if your relationship is strained right now in trying to, get them to do what they're supposed to be doing for online schooling or online therapies or whatever it is, that's actually causing more damage. So pull back from that and focus on things that support that relationship. It's going to feel a whole lot better to you as the parent, and it's going to really support growth and development and learning for your child in much better ways as well. So I hope that gives you some helpful things to think about. If you are a parent who has been feeling like, gosh, I really need to do something different for my child now, but I'm worried about whether I can, you are absolutely more capable than you may realize. The influence that you have with your child, it matters. The relationship that you and your child have matters more than just about anything else. You have the capability and the skills to do meaningful learning and growth with your kid. You do. I promise you that you do. Utilize the school staff, the therapists, those people for support, ask your questions, get some guidance and those kinds of things if it would be helpful to you. But otherwise, trust that you can do this, and that even in just navigating day-to-day life and engaging your child in the things that you're doing day-to-day, tremendous learning and growth opportunities there. Don't overlook that. So I hope that this encourages those of you who needed that today. I think it's more important than ever before for all of us as parents to feel empowered with our children. And especially those of you who have children with special needs, I want you to feel empowered, not disempowered, but empowered, that you can impact positive change and growth and development with your kids. You absolutely can do it. I'm here to cheer you on. I will be back again soon with some more info, tips, support strategies. So stay tuned. Thanks for spending a few minutes of your evening with me. I'll see you again soon.